In the year 2427, humanity stood at the precipice of extinction. The Valara Empire had unleashed their ultimate weapon, a being so destructive, so merciless, that entire colonies were reduced to ash in mere hours. They called her the Beast. The military reports detailed her path of destruction across the stars, with clinical precision. 17 human outposts obliterated, millions dead, with surgical efficiency that defied comprehension. Ambassador André Castellan watched the holographic display with a growing sense of dread. The floating blue images showed New Carthage, humanity's most prosperous outer colony, burning. Billowing smoke clouds rose from the central districts as evacuation ships scrambled desperately into the atmosphere. Many would never make it. The Beast had struck again. 47 minutes, Commander Helena said, her voice tight with barely contained fury. That's how long it took her to destroy everything we built over 30 years. 47 minutes. Ambassador. Andre's eyes remained fixed on the footage. He could see a dark figure moving through the flames. Impossibly fast. Impossibly precise. The Beast. The Valara warrior designated as Lyrax. The Council is considering full military escalation, Helena continued. We've lost patience for your diplomatic approach. Andre finally turned away from the screens. Then we've already lost. Their technology outpaces ours. Their warriors are bioengineered for combat. If we escalate, they'll simply unleash more like her. There is no negotiating with that thing. It's not even a person anymore. It's a weapon. Andre straightened his formal diplomatic attire, a habit from decades of service. Every weapon has an off switch, Commander, and I intend to find hers. The request was unprecedented. No human had ever attempted direct contact with the Beast. The Valara Empire had agreed, surprisingly quickly, to a meeting at Nexus Station, the neutral ground between their territories. Perhaps they were curious. Perhaps they wanted to flaunt their power. It didn't matter to Andre. For the first time, he would face Lyrax directly, without armies between them. The observation deck of Nexus Station was cleared of all personnel, except security officers and recording specialists. Andre waited alone in the center of the transparent walled room, his hands clasped behind his back. The airlock on the far side hissed open. She entered like death itself, tall, imposing, clad in battle armor stained with what could only be human blood. Her skin was ashen gray with hints of purple along her temple, characteristic of the Valara species. But her eyes were what caught Andre's attention. They weren't the mindless orbs of a predator. They were calculating, observant, and hauntingly empty. I greet you in peace, Champion Lyrax of House Valara, Andre said in the harsh, clicking language of her people. He had practiced for days to get the pronunciation right. The Beast tilted her head, studying him. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper, guttural and rough as if unused to speech. Human. That single word sent chills down Andre's spine. The security observers tensed visibly behind their transparent barriers. I am Ambassador André Castellan, representing the Colonial Council of Humanity. I have requested this meeting to discuss terms that might end the conflict between our peoples. Lyrax remained motionless, her eyes scanning the room, noting each security officer's position with predatory precision. Andre gestured toward the observation windows where security personnel watched nervously. Would you prefer we speak without an audience? I can request privacy. For the first time, something flickered across her face. Surprise, perhaps. She nodded once, a sharp, efficient movement. Security personnel, please withdraw to external monitoring stations, Andre said clearly. Ambassador, that violates all safety protocols. The chief observer protested through the communication system. I am aware, please withdraw. After several tense moments, the security staff reluctantly exited. The observation blinds lowered, giving them complete privacy. Only the recording devices remained active. They fear you, Andre said simply, turning back to Lyrax. As they should. You've given them ample reason. Yes. Another single-word response. But her posture had changed subtly. She seemed less rigid, watching him with something approaching curiosity. I would like to understand you, Lyrax. Not as a weapon, but as a being. Would you consent to a series of meetings? Just conversations. Her head tilted again, that same analyzing movement. Why? Because I believe there's more to you than destruction. I've studied the records of your attacks. There's pattern, purpose, strategy. These aren't the actions of a mindless killer. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, tomorrow, same time. With that, she turned and left through the airlock, leaving Andre alone with his racing thoughts. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. The beast had agreed to talk. The next day, Andre arrived early to prepare the meeting space. He had brought a three-dimensional chess set, an ancient human game of strategy. If his theory was correct, it might reveal something about how Lyrax thought. She arrived precisely on time, still in her blood-stained armor. Andre wondered if it was the same blood or fresh. He gestured to the chess set. Do you play games of strategy in Valara culture? He asked. Lyrax approached the floating holographic pieces cautiously. We train with battle simulations. This is similar. A game of position, foresight, and calculated sacrifice. Would you like to learn? She sat across from him with fluid grace that belied her imposing stature. Andre explained the rules briefly, demonstrating basic moves. To his surprise, Lyrax picked up the concepts with remarkable speed. Within minutes, she was not just playing but developing complex strategies. Her first moves were aggressive, direct, sacrificing pieces needlessly for quick attacks. But as the game progressed, her approach changed. She began to protect her pieces, to build defensive formations, to think several moves ahead. By the third game, she was executing complex gambits that Andre himself had only learned after years of play. You're a natural strategist, he commented, as she captured his queen with an elegant trap he hadn't seen coming. It reminds me of... She paused, her expression suddenly confused, almost pained. I don't remember. Before Andre could pursue this intriguing response, alarms blared throughout the station. The security doors slammed open, and armed guards rushed in, weapons raised. Step away from the ambassador! The security chief shouted. Our sensors detected a spike in her neural patterns consistent with pre-attack behaviors. Lyrax was on her feet in an instant, her body coiled like a spring. Andre rose more slowly, placing himself deliberately between her and the guards. Lower your weapons, he ordered. We were simply playing chess. Your interruption is unnecessary and dangerous. Sir, please move aside. We can't guarantee your safety. What happened next occurred so quickly that later, reviewing the security footage, Andre could barely follow the sequence of events. Lyrax moved, a blur of motion, and suddenly the guards were on the floor. All 6 of them, disarmed and immobilized, but remarkably, none dead. She stood over them, breathing heavily, looking almost as surprised by her restraint as they were. They threatened you, she said to Andre, her voice still quiet, but now edged with confusion. But I didn't kill them. The implications of this statement hung in the air between them. The beast, known for leaving no survivors, had deliberately chosen non-lethal force. It contradicted everything in her file. Thank you, Andre said carefully, for showing restraint. She looked down at her hands as if they belonged to someone else. Tomorrow, she said abruptly, and left before security reinforcements could arrive. That night, Andre couldn't sleep. He spent hours reviewing every scrap of intelligence on Lyrax, searching for inconsistencies, for anything that might explain the behavior he'd witnessed. Deep in the classified archives, he found an intriguing reference, A footnote in a military intelligence report from 5 years earlier. Subject previously identified as Champion Liak of House Kalar, responsible for the conditional surrender policy that spared civilian settlements. Disappeared after refusing extermination orders for the Procyon colonies. Presumed, executed for treason. Champion Liak, not Lyrax. And from House Kalar, known for their relatively moderate stance in Valara politics. Not the militaristic House Valara. The pieces began to fall into place in Andrei's mind. What if Lyrax had once been this Champion Liak? What if instead of execution, she had been subjected to something else? Something that had turned a strategist who spared civilians into the mindless killing machine known as the Beast. His speculations were interrupted by an urgent call from Nexus Security. Lyrax had requested an emergency meeting, outside their scheduled time. Something had happened. When Andrei arrived at the observation deck, he found Lyrax pacing like a caged animal. Her armor was disheveled, her eyes wild. "They come when I sleep," she said without preamble. "The dead, I see them. Human faces. Children. Why do I see them?" Andrei approached her cautiously. "You're experiencing nightmares. Dreams of the people you've killed." "Not dreams. Memories." She stopped pacing, fixing him with that intense stare. "But they feel wrong, like they belong to someone else. Someone is in my head. Ambassador. Someone who is not me." "Tell me about House Kalar," Andrei said, taking a calculated risk. Lyrax froze. "What did you say?" "House Kalar. Does that name mean anything to you?" She clutched her head suddenly, a growl of pain escaping her lips. "Stop. It hurts to remember." "I believe you were once called Liak, not Lyrax. That you were a champion who created a policy of conditional surrender, who refused to exterminate civilians. I believe something was done to you, to your mind." She lunged forward, grabbing Andrei by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. "Lies! I am the Empire's weapon. I have always been the Empire's weapon." Despite the crushing pressure on his windpipe, Andrei maintained eye contact. "Then why didn't you kill those guards?" he gasped out. She released him abruptly, and he collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. When he looked up, he saw something he never expected to see on the Beast's face. Tears. "Help me," she whispered. The next day, Andrei made arrangements for an unauthorized trip. They couldn't stay on Nexus Station. Too many eyes, too many questions. If his suspicions were correct, the Valara Empire would not take kindly to his interference with their living weapon. He needed answers, and for that, they needed to disappear. Kepler 442b had once been a promising colony world before environmental degradation made it uninhabitable. Now, it hosted one of the galaxy's largest black markets, a lawless trading hub where questions weren't asked as long as the credits flowed. Andrei had contacts there, unsavory perhaps, but necessary for what he planned. He smuggled Lyrax aboard a diplomatic shuttle, listing her as a security consultant under a false identity. Her size and distinctive Valara features made disguise difficult, but the right combination of robes and hood made her passable as a member of the reclusive Xylar sect. The markets of Kepler 442b were a sensory assault, acrid smoke from burning refuse, the babble of 100 alien languages, the press of bodies from dozens of species. Lyrax remained close to Andrei, visibly uncomfortable with the chaos. "We're meeting someone who specializes in Valara neural technology," Andrei explained as they navigated the crowded thoroughfare. "If anyone can help us understand what was done to you, it's him." "The Empire will find us," Lyrax said, scanning the crowds with practiced vigilance. "They always do." "Not here. Too much interference. Too many." Andrei stopped mid-sentence. Ahead, moving through the crowd with military precision, was a squad of Valara soldiers. Their armor bore the insignia of House Valara's elite corps. "This way," he hissed, pulling Lyrax into a narrow side alley. "They shouldn't be here. Someone must have tracked us." They slipped through the warren of back passages, Andre struggling to recall the layout from his intelligence briefings. Behind them, shouts indicated the Valara squad had spotted them. "There!" Andre pointed to a rusty door leading into what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse. "We can cut through and circle back to the spaceport." The warehouse was dark, the air thick with dust and the smell of decaying metal. They moved carefully through the gloom, alert for any sound of pursuit. They had nearly reached the far exit when floodlights suddenly blazed to life, blinding them. "Champion Lyrax," a voice called out in the harsh Valara language. "You are scheduled for neural maintenance. Come willingly, and the human will be spared." As Andre's eyes adjusted to the light, he saw a tall Valara male standing at the center of a semicircle of soldiers. His armor bore the marks of a battalion commander. "Corvex," Lyrax said, her voice flat. "Battalion commander of the 3rd Exigent Force." "It's good you remember me," Corvex replied, his tone almost gentle. "Though you seem to have forgotten your purpose, your loyalty to the Empire." "What did you do to her?" Andre demanded, stepping forward. "She was Champion Liak once, wasn't she? Before you turned her into your weapon." Corvex's expression revealed nothing. "The human speaks nonsense, Champion. Come now. It's time to return home." Lyrax remained motionless, her eyes darting between Corvex and Andre. "I remember. Fragments. Dreams that feel real. Was I someone else?" "Neural degradation," Corvex said dismissively. "Expected after extended deployment without maintenance. All will be clear again once the procedure is complete." "Don't listen to him," Andre urged. "Whatever maintenance means, it's how they control you, how they suppress your true self." Corvex sighed, a eerily human gesture from his alien features. "Kill the human, Champion. Prove your loyalty to the Empire." Lyrax's hands trembled. "I can't." "Can't," Corvex's voice hardened. "Or won't. Either way, it confirms my suspicions. The neural programming is failing." He gestured to his soldiers. "Secure them both. The human will be useful for studying her resistance patterns." The soldiers advanced, weapons raised. Andre reached for the small diplomatic sidearm, hidden beneath his robes, knowing it would be useless against their armor, but unwilling to surrender without a fight. Before he could draw it, Lyrax moved, not toward the soldiers, but toward a stack of crates in the corner. With a roar that seemed to shake the very walls, she drove her fist into them. The explosion that followed knocked everyone off their feet. Ammunition. The warehouse was an arms depot. Through the smoke and chaos, Lyrax grabbed Andre's arm. "Run!" she shouted, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. "The southeast exit leads to the lower docks." They sprinted through the burning warehouse, dodging falling debris and secondary explosions. Behind them, Corvex was shouting orders, organizing his soldiers for pursuit. They burst out into the open air of Kepler 442b's perpetual twilight, racing toward the spaceport through a labyrinth of market stalls and shanties. "They'll have the main docks locked down," Andre gasped as they ran. "We need another way off-world." Lyrax pulled him down a narrow passage between two abandoned processing plants. "I know a place. An old Imperial research station in the Helix Nebula. It was decommissioned years ago. We can hide there, gather resources." "How do you know about it?" Andre asked, surprised. She hesitated. "I don't know. It just came to me, like a memory that isn't mine." They reached the lower docks, a chaotic jumble of small traders, smugglers, and private vessels. Lyrax moved with purpose toward a small, nondescript cargo shuttle. "This one," she said. "Minimal security, outdated transponder, easy to override." Andre watched in amazement as her fingers moved across the access panel with practiced expertise. Within moments, the hatch slid open. "You've done this before," he observed as they climbed aboard. Many times, she replied, settling into the pilot's seat. At least, I think I have. As the stolen shuttle lifted off, alarms began to blare across the spaceport. Through the viewport, Andre could see Corvex's soldiers pouring onto the landing pad, weapons firing. But they were too late. The shuttle shot upward, breaking atmosphere and setting course for the distant smudge of purple light that was the Helix Nebula. Only when they were safely in transit did Andre allow himself to relax slightly. You saved my life back there. You could have gone with them, submitted to whatever maintenance they were offering. Why didn't you? Lyrax's hands remained steady on the controls, but her voice betrayed her uncertainty. The dreams, they feel more real than my waking life. And you called me by a name that makes my mind burn. Liak. Every time I hear it, I see flashes of a different life. Tell me about these flashes, Andre encouraged. What do you see? A chamber with neural interfaces, scientists in white, pain, endless pain as they strip away my thoughts layer by layer. And before that, strategies, battle plans, but different. Plans to minimize casualties, to offer enemies honorable surrender. She turned to face him, her expression haunted. Am I a monster of their creation, Ambassador? Or am I the monster they failed to fully contain? I don't believe you're a monster at all, Andre said softly. I believe you're a victim of something terrible, and I'm going to help you remember who you really are. The abandoned research station floated in the heart of the Helix Nebula, a skeletal structure against the backdrop of swirling purple gas clouds. It had once been an outpost for Imperial scientists studying the unique radiation patterns of the nebula, but had been evacuated years ago when those same radiation patterns began to intensify unpredictably. Lyrax docked their shuttle with practiced ease, overriding the station's dormant security systems. The air inside was stale, but breathable. The emergency system still partially functional after all these years. We should be safe here for a while, she said, as they moved through the darkened corridors. The nebula's radiation masks our presence from long-range scanners, and few ships venture this deep willingly. Andre studied their surroundings with growing interest. You said this was a research station. What kind of research? Neural science, Lyrax replied, leading him deeper into the complex. Specifically, methods to enhance Valara mental capabilities for warfare. They reached a central chamber filled with abandoned equipment, neural scanners, chemical synthesizers, and at the center, a chair fitted with restraints and a crown-like apparatus that would fit over a Valara skull. This is where they did it, Lyrax whispered, approaching the chair with visible dread. This is where they turn warriors into weapons. Andre examined the equipment. Much of it was beyond his understanding, but the purpose was clear enough. Neural reprogramming. They weren't enhancing your natural abilities. They were overwriting your identity. Lyrax touched the restraints, her fingers tracing the worn padding. I remember fighting, screaming as they forced the neural crown onto my head, begging them not to take away my honor. She looked up at Andre, her eyes haunted. Why would I resist if I were truly loyal to the Empire? Andre moved to a nearby console, brushing away years of dust. To his surprise, it powered up immediately. The station's backup generators are still functional. Perhaps there are records here, data about what they did to you. For hours, they searched the station's archives. Most of the data had been wiped or corrupted, but fragments remained, enough to piece together a horrifying picture. Project Berserker, the Imperial scientists had called it, a program to create the perfect warriors by removing the neural pathways responsible for empathy, moral reasoning, and autonomous decision-making, while enhancing aggression and combat instincts. The subjects were warriors who had demonstrated exceptional tactical ability, but had shown troubling ethical concerns about civilian casualties. The test cases were listed by their house designations. Among them, Champion Liak, of House Kalar, noted for creating the conditional surrender policy that had saved millions of lives. Reassigned to Project Berserker after refusing direct orders to exterminate the human population of the Procyon system. "You were a hero," Andre said softly, as they read the files together. "You refused to commit genocide, and this was your punishment." Lyrax stared at the screen, her expression unreadable. "If this is true, then everything I've done since, all the destruction, all the deaths, it wasn't truly me." "No," Andre agreed. "It was what they forced you to become." She turned away, her massive frame suddenly seeming smaller, vulnerable. "But I remember it all. Every colony I destroyed, every life I took. I remember the satisfaction I felt watching them burn. How can I reconcile that with who I supposedly was?" Before Andre could answer, an alert sounded from the console. Someone had activated the station's long-dormant communication array. A moment later, a voice crackled through the speakers, female, with the distinctive accent of the Valara homeworld. "Champion Liak? Is that you? This is Dr. Elena Rash. I've been monitoring for signals from the station for years, hoping someone would come." Lyrax tensed, ready for combat. But Andre placed a calming hand on her arm. "Who are you?" he asked. "How do you know about this place?" "I was a neuropsychologist with Project Berserker," the voice replied. "One of the few who objected to what we were doing. They discharged me when I attempted to document the ethical violations. I've been working with the Resistance ever since, trying to undo the damage we caused." "Resistance?" Andre questioned. "There's organized resistance within the Empire?" "Small but growing. Many Valara disagree with the Empire's militaristic expansion, especially the neural reprogramming of dissenters. When I detected activity at the station, I hoped it might be one of the subjects returned to seek answers." Lyrax approached the communication panel. "You know what they did to me?" "Champion Liak," Dr. Rash's voice softened. "I was there for your initial processing. You fought harder than any subject I'd ever seen. It took 8 guards to hold you down. You kept saying that House Kalar would never condone the slaughter of innocents, that there was no honor in genocide. Yet I became exactly what I resisted," Lyrax said bitterly. "Not by choice," Dr. Rash insisted. "The neural crown suppresses your true personality, replaces your values with programmed imperatives. But the fact that you're questioning now means the programming is failing. Your true self is reasserting." "Can it be reversed?" Andre asked. There was a long pause. "Partially. The neural pathways have been forcibly rewired, but the brain has remarkable plasticity. With the right treatment, much of the original personality could be recovered. I've been developing protocols for exactly this purpose." "Where are you?" Lyrax demanded. "How soon can you get here?" "I am in a secure location on Medina Station, at the edge of the nebula. I can reach you within 12 hours. But—" Dr. Rash hesitated. "You should know that Corvex has deployed the 3rd Exigent Force throughout the sector. They're searching every abandoned facility. It's only a matter of time before they check the station." Andre and Lyrax exchanged grim looks. "We'll prepare for your arrival, Dr. Rash," Andre said. "And we'll be ready if Corvex finds us first." After ending the communication, they explored the station further, searching for anything that might help them defend it. The armory had been stripped, but they found emergency weapons in security lockers, stunners mostly, designed to incapacitate rather than kill. "These won't stop Corvex's soldiers," Lyrax noted, examining the stunners with professional assessment. "We don't need to stop them," Andre replied. "We just need to delay them until Dr. Rash arrives. If she can begin the reversal process, we'll have evidence of what the Empire has done. Evidence I can take to the Colonial Council, perhaps even to the more moderate houses of the Valara themselves." Lyrax nodded slowly. "A diplomatic solution, like the one I apparently once advocated." She set down the stunner. her expression troubled. But what if the reversal doesn't work? What if the monster they created is all that's left of me? Andre looked at her steadily. Then we'll find another way. But I don't believe that's true. I've seen glimpses of who you really are, in your restraint with those guards, in your decision to save me on Kepler 442b. The real you is still there, fighting to get out. They spent the next hours fortifying their position and studying the facility's layout. Lyrax's military training, or perhaps her original strategic mind, proved invaluable as she identified choke points and escape routes. Despite the dire circumstances, Andre found himself impressed by her methodical approach. "You think like a commander, not just a weapon," he observed. "Chess," she replied with the ghost of a smile. "The game awakened something, patterns of thought I had forgotten." Their preparations were interrupted by the station's proximity alert. A ship was approaching, small, fast, bearing no official markings. "Dr. Rash," Andre said hopefully, checking the scanners. "She's ahead of schedule." But Lyrax tensed, moving to the viewport. "No, the approach vector is wrong. And there, that energy signature, Imperial Stealth Drive." She was right. As they watched, the ship's camouflage systems deactivated, revealing the unmistakable profile of a Valara strike craft. Corvex had found them. "We need to move," Lyrax said urgently. "The neural lab in the central section has the heaviest doors. We can barricade ourselves there." They raced through the station's corridors, the sound of the docking clamps engaging behind them. They had barely reached the neural lab when the first explosion rocked the station, Corvex's forces breaching the outer doors. The neural lab was much as they had left it, the ominous chair at its center, a reminder of what they were fighting against. Lyrax sealed the heavy doors, then began moving equipment to reinforce the barricade. "They'll cut through eventually," she said grimly, "but it will buy us time." Andre activated the communication system. "Dr. Rash, if you can hear this, our position has been compromised. Imperial forces are boarding the station. We're barricaded in the central neural lab, but we won't be able to hold them off indefinitely." No response came through the speakers. Either the communication was being jammed, or Dr. Rash was too far away to receive their distress call. The sounds of combat grew closer, boots on metal floors, the hiss of plasma cutters working on sealed doors. Lyrax took position near the entrance, stunner in hand, her body coiled for battle. "Stay behind me," she told Andre. "When they breach, I'll engage them. You find a way out through the service ducts." "I'm not leaving you," Andre said firmly. Before she could argue, the doors began to glow red as plasma cutters worked on the other side. Molten metal dripped to the floor. "Ambassador," Lyrax said quietly, "if I revert to my programmed state during combat, if I become the beast again, promise me you'll run. Don't try to reach me, just save yourself." Andre met her gaze steadily. "I promise I'll do whatever it takes to help you remember who you really are." The doors exploded inward in a shower of superheated metal. Through the smoke, armored figures poured into the lab, weapons raised. At their center stood Corvex, his ceremonial commander's armor gleaming under the emergency lights. "Champion Lyrax," he called out, his voice amplified by his helmet. "Your behavior has confirmed critical neural degradation. Surrender for maintenance, or we will be forced to subdue you." Lyrax raised her stunner. "I am not Lyrax, and I will never submit to your maintenance again." Corvex sighed. "I had hoped to avoid this. Neural degradation is often accompanied by physical resistance. Squad Alpha, non-lethal suppression protocols." The soldiers advanced in perfect formation. Lyrax met them with astonishing speed, her body moving with the fluid grace of a lifetime warrior. The stunner in her hand discharged repeatedly, dropping several soldiers before they could react. But there were too many. One soldier managed to fire a neural disruptor, a weapon designed specifically to incapacitate Valara nervous systems. Lyrax staggered, nearly falling. In that moment of weakness, the soldiers swarmed her, forcing her to her knees. "Remarkable," Korvax said, approaching cautiously. "Even with extensive neural degradation, your combat efficiency remains impressive." He turned to Andre, the human diplomat. "Your presence explains much about her malfunction. Emotional attachments often interfere with the programming." "It's not a malfunction," Andre said defiantly. "She's remembering who she really is. Champion Liak of House Kalar, the warrior who refused to commit genocide." Korvax removed his helmet, revealing features that might once have been handsome before years of combat had hardened them. "You misunderstand. Human. The champion was not reprogrammed because she refused orders. She was reprogrammed because she was right." This unexpected statement momentarily silenced both Andre and Lyrax. Her conditional surrender policy was gaining support among the moderate houses. Korvax continued. Her arguments for minimizing civilian casualties were persuasive. She represented a threat to the Empire's expansion strategy. He knelt before the restrained Lyrax. "You were not broken because you were weak, champion. You were broken because you were too strong." Lyrax stared at him, confusion evident in her eyes. "Then why are you here? Why force me back to maintenance if you know what it really is?" "Because I have my orders," Korvax said simply, "just as you once had yours. The difference is, I lack your courage to defy them." He stood, gesturing to his soldiers. "Prepare her for preliminary neural suppression. We'll complete the full maintenance cycle when we return to Imperial space." Two soldiers approached with a portable version of the neural crown. Lyrax struggled against her restraints, but the neural disruptor had weakened her considerably. "Wait!" Andre called out desperately. "You know this is wrong, Korvax. You admitted as much. If you had her courage, what would you do now?" Korvax hesitated, conflict evident on his face. "It doesn't matter what I would do. The choice is not mine to make." "It is always your choice," Andre insisted. "Every moment, every action. Just as it was Liak's choice to stand against genocide, even knowing the consequences." As the soldiers placed the neural crown on Lyrax's head, she suddenly convulsed, her body arching in pain. Her eyes rolled back, and a terrible keening sound escaped her lips. "What's happening?" Andre demanded, trying to reach her but held back by the soldiers. "Memory cascade," Korvax explained clinically. "The neural crown triggers suppressed memories as it re-establishes control. It's unpleasant, but necessary for the process." Lyrax's convulsions intensified. Through her pain, fragmented words escaped her. "The children, the ship. I gave the order. They burned. All of them burned." Andre realized what was happening. The neural crown was forcing her to relive her actions as the beast. But now, with her original personality partially restored, she was experiencing the full horror of what she had been made to do. "Stop this!" he shouted at Korvax. "You're torturing her!" "This is the price of remembering," Korvax replied, though his voice had lost some of its certainty. "This is why the neural suppression is a mercy. It shields her from the weight of actions she had no choice but to commit." Andre broke free from the soldiers holding him and rushed to Lyrax's side. Her eyes were wide, unseeing, trapped in a nightmare of memory. "Liak," he said firmly, using her true name. "Listen to me. What you did as Lyrax was not your choice. You were turned into a weapon against your will. But you are more than what they made you." Her convulsions continued, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "So many dead. My hands. My orders." "Yes, your hands," Andre acknowledged. "But not your will. Not your heart." He placed his hand over hers, ignoring the soldiers who moved to separate them. "I name you Liak of House Kalar, and you will choose your own path from this moment forward." Something in his words seemed to reach her. Her convulsions lessened, her breathing steadied. her eyes focused on his face with dawning recognition. "Ambassador," she whispered. "Andre?" Before anyone could react to this breakthrough, the station shuddered violently. Emergency alarms blared as the lights flickered. "We're under attack," one of Corvex's soldiers reported. "Unknown vessel firing on our ship and the station's docking bay." Corvex cursed. "Rebels! They must have tracked us here." He turned to his squad. "Secure the prisoner and the human. We're leaving immediately." In the chaos that followed, with soldiers rushing to battle stations and emergency protocols engaging, Lyrax saw her opportunity. With a surge of strength, born of desperate clarity, she broke free of her restraints and tore the neural crown from her head. Blood trickled from where its connections had been forcibly severed. She rose to her full height, towering over the soldiers who had restrained her. But instead of attacking, she simply stood there, swaying slightly, her gaze locked with Corvex's. "I remember," she said quietly. "I remember everything. What I was. What you made me. What I did." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "And I remember what I must do now." Corvex raised his weapon, but his hand trembled visibly. "Champion, don't make me—" "My name is Liak of House Kalar," she declared, "and I will never again be your weapon." With blinding speed, she disarmed Corvex and knocked him unconscious with a single precise blow. The remaining soldiers hesitated, caught between their training to obey their commander and the terrifying presence of the warrior before them. "Leave," Liak told them. "Tell the Empire that the beast is dead, that Champion Liak has returned." To Andre's amazement, the soldiers backed away, then turned and fled toward their damaged ship. Perhaps they recognized the truth in her words. Perhaps they simply feared what she might do. Either way, they were gone, leaving Andre and Liak alone with the unconscious Corvex. "You spared him," Andre observed. "As I once advocated sparing others," Liak replied. "It seems some principles survive even the most brutal reprogramming." She looked down at Corvex's still form. "He knew what they did to me was wrong. Perhaps one day he'll find the courage to act on that knowledge." The station shuddered again as another explosion rocked the docking bay. Andre helped Liak to a viewport, where they could see a small, nondescript vessel engaged with the Imperial ship. Even as they watched, the Imperial ship detached from the station, its engines flaring as it retreated into the nebula with the remaining soldiers aboard. The communication system crackled to life. "Champion Liak, Ambassador Castellan, this is Dr. Elena Rash. I hope my timing wasn't too inconvenient." Liak managed a weak smile. "Your timing, Doctor, was impeccable." In the days that followed, Dr. Rash worked tirelessly to help Liak recover. The process was neither simple nor painless. The neural reprogramming had created deep pathways in Liak's brain that could not simply be erased. Instead, Dr. Rash used a combination of reversed neural interface technology and traditional Valara psychotherapy to help Liak integrate her fragmented memories and rebuild her sense of self. "The programming will never be completely gone," Dr. Rash explained to Andre as they watched Liak sleep after a particularly difficult session. "The neural pathways are too deeply established, but with continued therapy and conscious resistance, she can learn to recognize when the programming is attempting to reassert itself." "And the memories?" Andre asked. "All the things she did as Lyrax?" Dr. Rash's expression grew somber. "Those will remain. They must remain. To erase them would be to deny responsibility, and Liak is too honorable to accept such an escape. She will carry the burden of those actions, even though they were not truly hers." Andre nodded, understanding the terrible weight Liak would bear. "What happens when we leave this place? The Empire will never stop hunting her." "The Resistance has safe havens," Dr. Rash assured him. "And your Colonial Council might offer asylum, especially if you explain what the Empire has been doing to its own warriors. More than asylum, Andre said thoughtfully. If Liak can testify about the neural reprogramming program, it could change everything. The moderate houses of the Valara would be outraged by such dishonorable tactics. It could fracture the empire from within. A diplomatic solution after all, Dr. Rash observed with a small smile. It's what Liak would have wanted all along, Andre replied. What she fought for before they took her mind. When Liak awoke, they shared this plan with her. She listened carefully, her expression grave but resolute. There will be others like me, she said. Warriors who questioned orders, who showed too much compassion, who were deemed unsuitable and reprogrammed rather than wasted. She looked at Dr. Rash. Can you identify them? From the project records? Many of the records were destroyed when the project was moved deeper into Imperial space, Dr. Rash said. But yes, I have names, assignments, perhaps 100 warriors who underwent the procedure. Then that is our mission, Liak declared. Not just to expose the Empire's crimes, but to find these warriors and free them from their programming, to give them back their names, their honor, their choices. Andre studied her with admiration, even after all she had suffered. Her first thought was for others in similar circumstances. This was the true champion Liak of House Kalar, the strategist who had once fought to minimize casualties, who had valued honor above blind obedience. With Korvax still unconscious but stable, they prepared to leave the station. Dr. Rash's small vessel would take them to Medina Station, where they could make contact with both the Valara resistance and, through secure channels, the Colonial Council. As they made their final preparations, Liak found Andre alone in the neural lab, staring at the chair that had been used to reprogram so many warriors. "You're troubled," she observed, her voice gentler than he had ever heard it. "I was thinking about what happens next," he admitted. "When we expose the Empire's program, when we free the other reprogrammed warriors, it won't undo what's been done. The colonies that were destroyed, the lives that were lost, they're still gone." "Yes," Liak agreed solemnly. "Nothing can change that. I will carry those deaths until my own. But perhaps, by preventing more such atrocities, by building something new from these ashes, their sacrifice might gain meaning." "A new peace," Andre suggested, "between our peoples." "Between all peoples," Liak corrected him. "House Kalar always advocated for broader understanding, for cooperation rather than conquest. In reclaiming my identity, I reclaim that mission as well." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, each contemplating the difficult path ahead. "You gave me back my name," Liak said finally. "When I was lost in memories and pain, your voice calling me Liak anchored me to who I truly am. I will not forget that gift, Ambassador." "Andre," he corrected with a smile. "I think we're well past formalities." "Andre," she repeated, testing the human name on her tongue. "In Valara tradition, to save another's life is to become responsible for its purpose. You have saved mine. I hope you approve of the purpose I choose for it." "I can think of no worthier purpose than bringing peace," he replied. Dr. Rash called them to the docking bay. It was time to leave. As they made their way through the station's corridors for the last time, Liak paused at a viewport, gazing out at the swirling purple mists of the Helix Nebula. "The radiation patterns are beautiful," she observed. "In Valara mythology, nebulae are the birthplaces of souls. Perhaps it's fitting that I found myself again in this place." "A rebirth," Andre agreed, joining her at the viewport. "Yes." Liak turned to him, her expression solemn yet hopeful. "Thank you, Andre, for giving me a name to know who I am." Together, they boarded Dr. Rash's vessel and left the abandoned station behind. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the enormous task of exposing the Empire's crimes while freeing others like Liak. But as the ship accelerated into the glowing heart of the nebula, Andre felt something he had not expected when he first confronted the beast. hope. The beast had been unstoppable, a weapon of terror and destruction. But Liak of House Kalar was something far more powerful, a warrior with purpose, fighting not for conquest, but for justice and peace. She had been given back her name, and with it, the freedom to choose her own path. And that, Andre reflected, as the nebula's light bathed the ship in gentle purple hues, was a weapon even the Empire could not withstand.